Hatshepsut was a woman who lived about 3,500 years ago. She was probably born around 1500 BC. She married her half-brother, who became king, so she was a queen for a number of years. But her husband died at a very young age, and his heir, who was the son of another queen, because Hatshepsut had no sons, his heir, Thutmose III, became king as a child, and Hatshepsut, as queen regent, ruled for the child for about 7 years. And then, for reasons we don't understand, she took on the role of a king. And she didn't kill her nephew, she didn't throw him out of power, she ruled with him as the senior king. So in all, Hatshepsut ruled Egypt for more than 20 years, at a time when Egypt was the most powerful nation state in the world. There is this flourishing of the arts under Hatshepsut. Partly they have the raw materials coming back into Egypt, and they also have a prolonged period of peace and prosperity. And she spends a lot of time restoring things that had fallen into ruin and reestablishing cults of various gods and doing all sorts of things that required a lot of building and a lot of work on the part of artisans. So this is one of the reasons that there is a great flourishing of art during the reign of Hatshepsut. The reason for artists creating sculptures of the king was to present the king in an ideal form to the people of Egypt. The ideal king for the Egyptians was a young man in the prime of life. Now, it doesn't matter whether the man is old, it doesn't matter if he's young, it doesn't matter if it's a baby, or if it's somebody who is not in perfect health, and it doesn't matter if it's a woman. The king is going to be presented as a young man in the prime of life. So you find Hatshepsut looking like a male king. She's wearing the regalia of a king, which means she's wearing the crown the king wears. She is dressed in a short, tight kilt, and she's dressed as a man, basically. And it's not because they're pretending she's a man. It's just they are presenting what for 1,000 years has been considered the ideal king. Hatshepsut, when she became king, built a large temple on the west bank of the Nile dedicated to the god Amun, who was at that time the most important god in the Egyptian pantheon of gods. In the temple there is a sanctuary for the god Amun. So the large statues, especially the kneeling statues with the two little pots, these are statues who are offering to Amun when he comes to the temple. And they are well over life-size. They show Hatshepsut as the ideal image of a king. Along the processional road leading up to Hatshepsut's temple, there were dozens of what we call sphinxes. The Egyptian sphinx is a lion with the head of a human being, and the human being is the king, wearing the Nemi's headcloth and wearing a beard. This beard is something we call a false beard because it's not the king's real beard. And so Hatshepsut wearing a false beard was nothing new because all kings wear false beards. The king in this sphinx is associated not simply with the lion, which is a very powerful animal, but also with the sun god because the lion is associated with the sun god Re. Hatshepsut ruled for roughly 20 years. We think that she ruled with the agreement of her nephew. He became one of the greatest warriors of his time period. So if he'd wanted to, he could have overthrown Hatshepsut, probably, but he didn't. However, 20 years after her death, for some reason that we don't entirely understand, he erased her name from all documents, he cut her name out of her temple, and he took all of the statues of Hatshepsut and he smashed them. We don't know why he did this. We assume it's for some political reason. But it could be simply because Thutmose was in his 40s at this point, we assume, and he may just have wanted to take his entire reign back for his own. So he's erasing the memory of this woman who ruled with him for 20 years. We don't know what the reason is, but we do know it happened.